Hi guys, welcome back to another video on Next.js 14. I'm going to be using Clerk authentication tutorial which I've already created, and I've been getting requests from multiple users that how we can connect Clerk authentication users which are stored in Clerk database and how to store these users in other external databases, because in real application we have users models and we have other data. It can be the users products, users nodes, user settings, analytics. So we have to store this user data in our external database because other data in our application will be stored in our external databases, and it can be the MongoDB database, it can be the SQL Postgres database, or any other databases. So I will be expanding the same application which I have already created. Let me show you. This is the second video you can see which I have already created. Authentication with Clerk, login, sign up and forget password. This is almost 1 hour long video. If you want to learn all about Clerk authentication, protecting routes, protecting client components, server components, protecting with middleware, you can watch this video. But if you have an understanding of Clerk authentication and want to know that how we can store these users in our external databases, then this is the video for you guys. So this is the application which I have already created in this particular video, the second video, and you can see that I can click on the login or the sign up. If I'll click on it, let me see if my application is running. Okay, yeah, it's running. So this is the login page, and here I can click on this continue with Google. From here I can select any of my email ID, and after user is logged in, it will be redirected to this /profile page which I have set in my this env local file. This is where I have set. All right, so now let's get started and configure our database, and I will be showing you how we can connect with the MongoDB, creating users in the MongoDB. And also once the user is created in the Clerk dashboard, it should automatically trigger a webhook, and that should store the data in the MongoDB. So before moving further, let me show you all the videos which I've already created on Next.js 13, 14 using app directory, and you can learn pretty much every topic if you want to become a good Next.js developer. So you can see I'm putting a lot of effort building these videos for you guys, so do subscribe my channel and like this video. This particular playlist contains 23 video, but if I go back, you will see that I have multiple videos on Next.js 13 as well, along with tips and tricks of JavaScript as well as AI related videos, and also Docker tutorials with CI/CD. So this is the same project which I finished in my previous Clerk authentication video using Next.js 14. So first of all, we need to configure MongoDB in this project. So let's go ahead and open up the cloud.mongodb.com. I've already created multiple projects. So for you guys, I'm going to be creating a new project. Just click on that and click on new project, and I will be naming my project, and then I will be connecting my MongoDB with this particular Next.js 14 project. So here I first need to give the project name. So let's say Clerk Next 14. Okay, so here you don't need to add anything, and I'm gonna go and click on the next. I will keep project owner as it is. Click on the create a project. So here I have this source folder and I have this app folder. So first of all, I'm gonna be creating a new folder inside this source folder. So let's create that, and this is going to be lib, and inside this lib I'm gonna be creating db.ts file. All right, and in this particular file I will be connecting my project with the MongoDB. So here you can see that my project is created, and I'm going to click on the create, and this is going to create a cluster. And in this particular page will need to select some region. So I'm going to go with the free version. Let's keep the cluster 0. Let's keep this AWS, and here I'm going to click on the create deployment. Okay, so here I need to quickly select this. All right, so it's going to take some time to create my cluster. So let's get back, and before moving further, let me install few packages which will be needing. So I'm gonna be installing npmi. First of all, I will be installing Mongoose, and then I will be installing MongoDB. All right, so here I need to import Mongoose and then like this from mongoose. All right, so after that I need to fetch the URL which I will be creating over here. It's still creating that. So connect to the cluster, choose a connection method. So I will be copying my password first of all, and I will be saving it somewhere in my notes. So let me save that first of all. And I'm gonna be creating this database user. So this has been created. Now click on the choose connection method, and I'm gonna be click on the drivers, and this is particular URL which I need to copy. Okay, so let's come back and let's open up the env localhost, and here I will be creating this particular name. So let's say mongodb underscore URL equals to this. Okay, so this password is already added, and this is done. So I'm gonna go click on the close, and I'm going to just close all of these notification, and let's verify the network access for accessing this database quickly. So currently my IP address is set, so I can connect this database. I can click on the database, and from here I will be clicking on the collections, where I will be seeing all the data which will be stored in this database. All right, currently you can see that it is showing these things. Okay, these are just default users which it has created, so we can leave these like this. Other than this simple metrics, I'm gonna be just removing it. Sample mflex. So let's drop this particular database name, and now it should show nothing. All right, so here we will be using this particular URL. Let's close this env file, and I'm going to come over here. So in this particular file, let's fetch that mongodb URL. So const mongodb underscore URL equals to process dot env dot mongodb URL. Okay, so just so that we don't make any mistake, we can copy the name from here directly and paste that over there. All right, so now I will be, let's say, let cached, because we are using Next.js. In Node Express application, we don't need to maintain the cache, because in Next.js, to access the database, before every request, we need to connect to the database, but it will cause an issue. It will delay the connection if we don't maintain the cache, because if the cache exists for the database connection, then we will use the cache to connect to the database rather than regenerate the connection with the database. So this is going to be like this. So let for now add any. So global as any dot mongoose. All right, and here I'm going to check if cached does not exist, then I will be creating a cached equals to global any mongoose equals to con null, and then the promise null. All right, and here I will be exporting a function that will be used in other files to connect to this database. So like this, and if cached dot connection exist, then I'm going to return the cached version of the connection. Otherwise, I'm going to also verify if MongoDB URL exists. You don't need to verify, but we can check if this particular URL exists or not, then we can throw an error. But for now, we don't need to write this because we know that it exists. So cached dot promise equals to cached dot promise or mongoose connect mongodb URL. like this, and inside it I first need to add the DB name. So let's give the DB name. This is something we can give Clerk next 14 DB. You can write anything inside it. Let's give the buffer commands equals to false and connect timeout equals to 30,000. All right. So this is a function which we have added, and here I can add cached dot connection equals to await cached dot promise and then returned cached dot connection. All right, so you can pause the video and copy as it is, as I have added over here. And for this any we can create an interface as well. Let's quickly add an interface. So Mongoose connection and connection, we can get it like Mongoose, and then promise, we can connect promise Mongoose like this. All right, and use this particular interface over here. Okay, so this is null. So we can add null over here because it is saying that it can be null as well. So you can see it is gone. So let's add null. All right, so that's pretty much it we need to write in this particular file. It will make sure that we are connecting to the database properly by creating this new database in the MongoDB. And also if the cached version already exists, then we are going to return the cached version rather than reconnecting to the database. So I hope it will not throw any issues. So let's close this particular file. And now in this particular lib folder, I'm going to create a new folder, and this is going to be models, and inside it I will be creating a new user model. So user.modal.ts, if you want to know how to work with models, how to create REST APIs in Next.js 14, how to connect with MongoDB database separately, then I've already created all of these videos on my channel. So you can check that out and learn pretty much every topic on Next.js 14. So in this particular file, I will be using Mongoose model schema to create the different properties for the users. Properties can include the email, username, photo, first name, last name, and also we need to maintain the Clerk user ID, which is being created in the Clerk dashboard. So in the first line, I'm going to be importing schema, model, and models, and this is going to be from Mongoose. And then I need to create a variable. Let's call it user schema equals to new, and then schema. I've already explained these things in my REST API creation tutorial on Next.js 14. You can check that out. So here we need to add some properties. The first property we need to add is this Clerk ID, and we are maintaining the Clerk ID in the MongoDB user creation. This is helpful when we need to make the relationship with user, which is stored in both Clerk and the MongoDB. So next we need to add email, username, we can have the photo, last name, and then the first name. So let me quickly add these. Unique means that it cannot be duplicated. ID should be unique. Required is it is required. Then we have the username, type string, first name, and then the last name. Okay, so once we have initialized this schema, we can export this particular user. And before that, we need to create models user actually, or if user does not exist, then we are going to create a new model. So here we can have user schema, which we have created above, and then I can write export default user. So this is the model that we have created. Let's close this, and I'm going to be creating a new folder inside this lib, and I'm going to be calling actions. I hope that you have an understanding about server actions in Next.js 13, Next.js 14. I've already created multiple videos on using the server actions, so I will try to explain it over here as well. Server action means that whatever the code we write inside this particular file actually runs on the server side, and it means that we don't need to create APIs to connect to the database. We can directly connect to database within the server actions as well. So inside it, I'm going to be creating user action.ts. All right. So here, to make it run on the server side, we need to write use server at the top within the double quotes. Okay. And here I'm going to be importing the user model, which I've just created, and also connect function from the db.ts file, which we have created. So import, and then I will be writing user from at lib, and then I will be writing the models slash user model. Okay, and now let's fetch connect from at lib db.ts. All right, and then I will be exporting a function. This is going to be the create user, and we can create an interface as well, but to make this video shorter, I'm going to give it any type, and let's give a try catch block quickly, and like this. So the first thing that we need to do is to connect with our database, and this is going to be async await, and it is not going to move to next line until it establish the connection. And after that, I'm going to be creating a new user dot create, and then the user which is coming from this param, and then I will be simply returning the response json.parse, json.stringify, and then the new user. And inside this I can also write console log error. All right, there seems an error, so let's see like this. All right, so that's pretty much it we need to write over here. So this particular user action, I'm not going to use this particular function directly from any of my component from the user interface. Instead, this function is going to be triggered by the clerk, because clerk is going to check if the user is successfully created. Then the clerk automatically trigger a webhook, which I'm just going to create, and the webhook is going to call this function, and it is going to create a new user instance in my MongoDB database, and this user will be passed from the clerk. Okay, so let's close that. And next thing we need to do is inside this app folder, we need to create a new folder, and this is going to be API. And inside it, we can have webhooks. So we can have multiple webhooks. So that's why I'm creating this general function, general folder actually. And inside it, we can name the different functions, webhook functions that belongs to different platforms. So I need to use it for the clerk, so that's why I've created a new folder. I hope that you have an understanding how to create APIs, which I've already created a video on. So we always have to create the API folder inside the app directory, and inside this API folder we need to create another folder that refers to the API URL. Okay, and inside it I need to create this file route.ts. We cannot change its name if we want to make it an API route. Okay, so here I need to import multiple things. All right, so in my terminal, let me import those and see if there comes any error. So these are the different things that we need to import. So I'm gonna be installing svix so that the error is gone. So where did I got these imports from? I'm gonna give the link of this particular article, which is from the Clerk. Sync Clerk data to your Mac backend with webhooks. So this is an awesome article. It shows how we can connect our Clerk with the MongoDB or any other databases. And if I come down, you will see that this is where I got these from here, and this is showing that we need to install Swix package. All right, and then we need to create this particular post function, which we need to create over here. And above this, I also need to import that function which I created. So create user from the user action. So this is how I have created. All right. So inside this particular thing, what we need to do is we need to add this webhook secret. So I'm gonna go, you can create a new Clerk project as well, but I'm gonna be using the same project which I've already created. But I'm gonna be showing you the step which we need to do. The first of all, what you need to do is you need to click on this webhooks. And here we need to create a webhook. Webhook means that for any kind of action that happens in the Clerk, we will be triggering an API that we have created in a project. Okay, so this particular hook is already created. I'm going to show you by creating a new hook as well. So I'm going to click on add webhook. And here I need to add a URL, and this URL cannot be the local host. This URL needs to be a public ID. So for that, we need to deploy our application so that we got a public endpoint URL, and which we can add over here. All right. So before moving further, I'm going to leave this page as it is. I need to create a new GitHub repository, and I'm going to be deploying this application to my Vercel. Okay. And then I'll be coming to this page. So here I'm gonna be creating, let me first verify if we don't have, this is not a Git repository which we need to add. So I'm gonna go to the GitHub repository, and I'm gonna be creating a new repo. So I'm gonna be creating Next.14 MongoDB Clerk, and I'm gonna leave it private and click on the create repository. So from here I will be pushing this. I need to add some code over here which I can do it later, but for now, to get the web secret, I first need to deploy my application as it is, as it's showing currently. Okay, so let's go. And this particular repository is created, and I need to first initialize it with Git if it's not already initialized. And then let me add a first commit. First of all, let's add git add and then the commit, and let's quickly copy all of these commands. All right, so our project should be pushed to this repository. And yes, you can see that it is pushed. Now I'm gonna go and open up the vercel.com. So here I'm going to click on this add new button and click on the project. I have already added my GitHub repository to have access to all the repositories from my account. So it's going to show me the recent repository which I've just created, Next.14 MongoDB Clerk. So let's wait for that. So I have connected my account, and it is showing this first repository which I have just created. So I'm going to click on the import, and now inside this env local, I'm going to copy all of these URLs from here, and I'm going to click on the environment variable and paste over here, and it's going to add all of these environment variables over here for me. And after this, I'm going to click on deploy, and it's going to take some time to deploy my application. All right, so project is deployed. You can see that it's showing congratulations. I'm going to click on continue to the dashboard, and it's going to give me the URL where my application is deployed. And that URL is something that we need to paste over here while creating this webhook endpoint. All right, so this is the app. So I'm going to click on that, and it should show me the same kind of UI which was showing over here. It's showing loading currently. All right, so let's copy this particular URL which is deployed, and I'm going to come over here and let's paste it. And I'm going to write API webhooks slash, and then I'm going to add Clerk, because this is the URL that is where I have created this particular API, and make sure there is no mistake. All right, so we don't need to write the description, it is optional. And these are all the events that we can enable if we want to trigger any API that we have created in our application. It can be the any URL, API URL that we want to trigger based upon any event triggered from this clerk. So one thing, if I go down, users, we need this user creation event that should be enabled from here, and I'm going to click on the create. So this webhook is created, and whenever user is going to be created in this particular clerk dashboard in this application, this API is going to get triggered. So I'm going to click on reveal this signing secret. Let me copy this, and I'm going to come over here, env local, and I'm going to add it like this. So webhook secret equals to, and I'm going to paste it over here. All right. And I also need to copy this thing. Let's go over settings of our virtual application, click on the environment variables, and I'm going to create this new environment variable key and click on the save. And I don't want to redeploy it as of now because it will not work, because I need to write code over here to create our user in MongoDB database. All right. And before moving further, if I go over here, this particular article, what we need to do is we need to add this particular URL to be public, this particular API URL. I'm going to go to the middleware, and these are the couple of URL which I have already added. So to add that new API URL /API/webhooks/clerk. All right. So let's save this particular file. Whenever we are going to redeploy this application, this is going to be the public URL. The API is going to be the public URL, means that anything, it can be the clerk, it can be us, that we can connect to this API from anywhere. All right. So let's come back to route.ts file. Inside this post request, I'm going to go to this article, and I'm going to copy everything inside this post request from this particular article. So let me copy everything, copy, and I'm going to paste it over here. All right, make sure this webhook secret is matching with the name of your env local. Yes, it's matching. And let's come down here, event type. Event type is going to give us the type of event which is being triggered from that dashboard. Currently we have set the event type to user.created, and this is something which we need to detect. All right, so let's come back over here below this event type, and let me add create user in MongoDB. All right, so if event type equals to user.created, then we are going to fetch all the data from this. So if we go over here and click on this webhook reference, then we can see that we have this data which is being returned for that user. You can see whenever this particular user is created, this is the data is going to be returned. So we can fetch any kind of data from here, but for now I'm going to get ID, I'm going to get email addresses, I'm going to get image URL, I'm going to add the first name. I'm actually matching with few things which are added in the user model which I have created for using the Mongoose. So these are the properties for that. So last name, and then I have also created the username in Mongoose model, and then I can add evt.data. All right. So after this, let's create an object for the user. So I'm just going to add that particular object. This is the user, and you can see that I'm setting up the Clerk ID using that ID being returned from the event type from Clerk. I'm getting an email address from email addresses because email addresses comes with this array of email addresses. All right, so username is going to be the username. We can append both first name, last name. Sometimes username gets null, because that's why I've added this exclamation mark after that. And photo is going to be the image URL. And these are the 6 properties which I added in this model. This is the photo which I have set over here. All right, so once this is set, we can log. Let me log this user as well to debug if there is any issue. And then new user equals to await create user and then the user. All right, so this is going to create a new user in the MongoDB database. This is the function added in this action. It is going to connect to the database. It's going to create an entry in the MongoDB database. And after that, what we can do is we can actually create a check. If new user is created, new user exists, then I'm going to set the metadata in the Clerk. This is beneficial when we want to add relationship between users and organizations and the permission within the Clerk dashboard. So I can write Clerk client dot users dot update user metadata with an ID and then the data. So public metadata. And then I can write the user ID colon new user dot underscore ID. All right. So after this is set, we can simply return the next response. So next response dot JSON. And then I can write message new user created user colon new user. All right, so I think we are pretty much done with this webhook. The purpose is that whenever the Clerk user is created, it should create an entry in the MongoDB database. First of all, what I need to do is I need to deploy my application again. I have already set the environment variable. I've already set this middleware, made it a public URL. And now I'm going to deploy this application again. And the way Versalis works is whenever there's a new deployment in the GitHub repository, it auto triggers the new deployment. So I can deploy git push origin main, and it's going to redeploy all the new changes which I have added. If I go over the deployment, and it should be rebuilding. Yes, it is rebuilding the project because this has been updated again. Let me verify quickly. And yes, you can see that it's showing now because that's why we have set this out within the source folder. So let's wait for this, and once it's going to get deployed, we are going to test this out. But once, meanwhile, it is getting deployed, I'm going to go to the databases for this particular database, and there should be no user over here. And also I'm going to delete all the users exist in this particular Clerk dashboard before moving further, so that we can test it properly. So I've deleted all the users, and this is deployed as well. Let's open the application on the URL which it has given to us. And now I will try to log in with the user. So let's click on the login, and I'm going to go with the GitHub for this time, and I'm going to click on authorize Clerk. So let's see if it goes to the profile URL. All right, so we are successfully logged in, and we are navigated to this profile, this home page, and I can click on the profile, and we are successfully logged in. And now I'm gonna go over here and let's refresh this Clerk dashboard and see if the new user is created over here. And yes, the new user is just created, and I'm gonna go to the webhooks. All right, so this is the endpoint. I actually deleted the previous endpoint which I showed you before. So let's click on that and click on the event log. I can click on the logs. So these are the recent ones. You can see. You can ignore the last 3-4 ones. I was actually testing this. But the user is successfully created over here. And if I go over here, actually see the logs. This was the deployment, and we can see the logs, what happened. So here you can see that there is no error when triggering the /API/webhooks/clerk, and this was actually returned from that webhook which we added over here. From this response, new user created. All right, and now let's go over here, and I'm going to click on the browse collection and see if the user is created or not. All right, so the user is created with the same data that was used to create the user in this clerk. And one thing more, that if you see such kind of error like this, task timed out, and there seems that the DB connection is not getting successful. Let me show you that you need to, before actually log in with the new user, you need to go to the network access in the Mongo Atlas, and you need to add a new IP address and enable include your IP address and add 0.0.0 and make it active, so that this particular database can be accessed from everywhere. Okay, if you don't do this, there might be a chance that you will see such kind of errors. All right, I've added that, and now the error is gone. And here you will see in the database the user is created. And if I go to this, go to the webhook, actually go to the users, go over, click on the user, and come below, and this is the metadata which shows the user ID, and this is the user ID which is showing over here. And this user ID, let's see, 1F78. Let's go over here, let's click on the browse collection, and it should be matching with the user created over here. You can see 1F78, and this is because we added this metadata over here with the user ID, with new user and underscore ID. All right, so we have successfully integrated our Clerk authentication connection with the MongoDB database, and now we can add relationship with more Mongo's models along with this user whenever the user is being logged in with Clerk. You can add authentication and add relationship by adding more models. It can be nodes, products, settings, analytics, and you can build your own application. So that's pretty much it for this particular tutorial. I hope that you have got an idea how to do these things. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe my channel, and don't forget to like this video. I'm going to create more videos on Next.js and building more applications using Next.js. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.